This molar tooth was one of my hardest molars to treat. I'm going to show you exactly how I isolated it, used matrix bands, how I overcame these matrix band issues, ended up using sectional matrices as well to get a really good contact with the teeth next to it. Honestly guys, there's a lot of hidden gems in this video and a lot of things to learn. Let's jump right into it. Okay, so we start by isolating the teeth. Now, I use Dr. Callan Pop's isolation method. If you guys haven't seen his online course, I really recommend it. I'll put a link for it in the description. But you put the rubber dam sheet onto the actual frame, you hold it over the teeth, and you get your nurse to basically put little dots where the teeth are. And then this is just me punching the holes into the rubber dam sheet. And this is the 13A clamp that I'm using, and so again just putting the rubber dam sheet over the wings of the clamp. Now the technique is basically putting everything on all at once, but the trick is you have to only have the rubber dam sheet onto the frame in 3 points of contact. And again, it will make more sense if you watch Dr. Callan Pop's YouTube videos or his course. Always before putting the rubber dam sheet on, always have to floss the contacts. I'm just getting my floss tie ready here as well. If you guys want to see a video on floss ties, put a comment down below, I'll make that as well. So here I'm putting the clamp onto the tooth, and the important bit here is that my left index finger is holding the arc of the clamp, and it's giving it a lot of stability, and it's helping me push it down to the tooth. And usually you just kind of feel it go into the undercut. Here I'm using a flat plastic to kind of push the rubber dam sheet over the wings of the clamp as well. And then the next thing that I do is you'll see is I'm adjusting the clamp a little bit. I'm seeing that palatally it's gone a little bit too mesial, and I'm just kind of rotating it around the tooth so it's got a much nicer contact. I really want to make sure that the rubber dam clamp is really stable on the tooth. I don't want it to kind of be rocking or suddenly pop off. Then I stretch over the rubber dam sheet over the teeth. Usually I like to do this part again myself, and then slowly my nurse will come in to help and hold it over the teeth in place. I get the floss. I like to floss the teeth myself, and it just helps me really invert the rubber dam sheet as well. You will see I'm using this technique where I'm pushing the rubber dam sheet into the sulcus with my floss. So when I'm in that tooth, I'm pushing it to the mesial of the 6 and then the distal of the 5, and it's kind of inverting the rubber dam with the floss as well. And then when I'm ready, I've kind of flossed enough of the teeth, I will attach those other sections of the rubber dam sheet into the frame. Now, as you can see, there's one area there where it didn't really floss through, so I'm just going back in there with my floss, making sure that the rubber dam has been flossed through correctly. And at this point, I'm quite happy with that. And now it's just a case of kind of inverting the rubber dam. I'm using my probe here. Usually you just hold it at kind of like a 45-degree angle to the tooth, and you run the probe along the margin of the tooth. I'm using the ISODAM sheet here, and the ISODAM heavy just inverts really nicely. So this is just me getting my floss tie through. So I put it through on the distal contact first and then on the mesial. Sometimes it's a little bit fiddly, there's a lot of pushing kind of going on. And then I slowly tighten it. As I'm tightening, I kind of noticed that I would prefer the floss to be on the buccal side. So in a second, I'm going to move the kind of point of the floss to the buccal side where the knot is basically. So it's just kind of slowly moving there and using a flat plastic to hold it down whilst I tighten with my right hand. And the main reason I want this floss tie there is to really push the rubber dam sheet as far down as I can, because that amalgam is so close to the gums. And then I like to tie my floss tie to the actual frame. As you can see here, I really tighten it, and again it's just really helping me push down that rubber dam sheet, and it means the suction isn't going to be sucking up the floss, making weird kind of noises and things. So that's a really good tip there as well. So in a second, I'm going to start removing the amalgam. I'm using lots of different burrs. In hindsight, I should have used a much bigger burr than that one, kind of help get the amalgam out as quickly as possible. And the idea with this tooth is that I'm removing the amalgam and I'm going to replace it with a composite today, because we just want to kind of monitor the vitality of the tooth to see if it needs a root canal or not, because the kind of filling is really close to the pulp. So this kind of composite is going to be temporary. We aren't planning for cuspal coverage, but we're just waiting to see if the tooth is going to need a root canal or not. Now, once the amalgam is out, you can see the floss is showing, and I'm really trying hard to push it down. It will keep annoying me, and I'm going to come back to it later on as well. So at this point, just using the rose head to make sure that my enamel to dentine margin is as clean as it can be, and the mesial and distal areas as well, just making sure that the dentine is clean of any caries as well. I like to use this really thin burr. It's kind of like a flame shaped, almost like an IPR burr, and I like to take that around the edges of my restoration just to kind of break the contacts. It smoothens it, it gets rid of any unsupported enamel, and it means I have a really nice enamel margin in that area. And so like I said, I'm going to go back to that floss and really be aggressive with it and really try and push it down, just because I don't want to see it basically. And as you can see, with a bigger flat plastic, I was really able to push it down. So this is me sandblasting the tooth, getting ready to put the kind of restoration in, the composite, and I wanted to use a normal matrix band to build my palatal wall first. So this is a Pro Matrix Curve matrix band. I got it in nice and easily because I was able to clean the contacts with that thin IPR burr, but as you can see, kind of there's a big void between the matrix band and the tooth. So I'm going to start putting some wedges in to try and seal that area using some wooden wedges, just because it's a normal matrix band, not a sectional. But what I'm realizing here is that as I'm putting these wedges in, this matrix band just keeps coming off palatally and is riding up the tooth as soon as I tighten it, and I'm not really getting that palatal seal that I want. This matrix band, the main function for it is that palatal seal. I'm not going to be restoring the mesial and distals with this matrix band, so it's really disappointing that I can't get a nice kind of palatal seal there. At one point I just basically give up with that one and I go back to just like a normal Toffelmeyer matrix band, or a siqveland actually, and this one tends to be a little bit stronger and more rigid than the Pro Matrix one, and so as you can see, as I tighten, I'm really trying to use my index finger to push it down palatally and then tighten, in a hope that it will kind of just stay in that area and not ride up like the Pro Matrix band did. So once I was able to kind of really tighten it, get some wedges in, I was happy with the palatal seal. At mesially and distally, it still wasn't great. There was the voids, but like I said, I'm not restoring those areas, so I didn't care about that. Now I'm applying the etch. I'm mainly just applying it on enamel. I'm not applying on my dentine because I'm using Clearfill SE2, and with that one I like to etch only in the enamel because the bond itself will etch the dentine for me. And again, because we're close to the pulp with this one, I really don't want to be etching my dentine in case I get the pulpitis. So going to be washing it out. I wash out for a long time, but again, I'm just cutting these clips down to try and condense the video for you guys. Applying the first bottle, so the primer, scrubbing that into the dentine. I was scrubbing for about 15-20 seconds, air dried, and then applied bottle 2, which is the bond, and again air dried that as well, and then light cured. So this is just me applying the first layer of composite. I'm using an LMArt condenser here to apply the composite. I believe I use a little bit of wetting resin as well on the instrument so it prevents the composite from sticking. And I'm really just trying to build a palatal wall here. So again, yeah, so there's the bit of the wetting resin, a little bit of the micro brush to really adapt it in there. And like I said, with this area, we just want to build a nice thick palatal wall. And the main reason I'm doing this is because I need that palatal wall for me to be able to put my sectional matrix band in. I'm putting lots of layers in because I want that to be really strong. I've had it before where I've built my palatal wall a bit too thin, and when I went to put on my sectional matrices, the palatal wall just basically snapped off. So I'm just being cautious here, making it nice and thick, just so that it can support the sectional matrix band, especially the garrison rings, which I'm about to use in a bit. So I've skipped forward to, after building up the palatal wall. I'm really happy with that. So I'm going to take off my siqveland matrix band and I'm going to get started with my sectional matrices. So for the actual matrix band itself, I use the Polydenture Quick Matte Flex Titanium sectional matrices. And these kind of have a titanium reflex. So when they bend, they go back to their normal shape, which I really like. I'm using the Paladent wedges here. So kind of combining a few different things that I tend to like. Once the Paladent wedge is in, I go in with the garrison ring. Again, using the orange one, which is a little bit taller than the blue one, because this is a molar tooth, and it got a really nice shape and contact there. I go in with my kind of ball burnisher to just really adapt the matrix band to the tooth next to it, make sure I've got a really nice contact. Now, for the first layer, I like to use just a little bit of SDR, just to seal in any of the voids, make sure I've got a really nice seal at the bottom. And then I'm going in with my genial composite, so the main composite composite that I've been using so far has been the Genial A-Cord A2. Flattened that down with my ball burnisher, and then using a really thin flat plastic again from the LM Art kit to push that up against the wall and create my my marginal ridge in that area. I sometimes like to use a micro brush as well, just really pat things down, make them nice and smooth. And then so going back in with some more Genial composite, and I've noticed a little void there in the wall, so just filling that area up as well. So once I was happy with that wall, I took off the ring and the whole matrix system. Just checking the tooth out, and I was really happy with the contact there. So just moving on to the distal contact now. I'm going to use the same technique, so the same polydenture matrix band, but here I could see that it just felt like it wasn't seating down all the way properly. So I just keep trying to push it, but I could see it's got a good contact with the base of my cavity, so I just went ahead with it. I tried to put my wedge in. I went in palatally again. But as I'm kind of putting the wedge in, the matrix band kind of feels a little bit loose, as you can see, it's not really holding the matrix band in place. And sometimes it's a case of just trying to put the wedge in buccally that can prevent that issue. And so I place it in again, push it down nice and tight, make sure it's, you know, down as far back as it can go, or far down as it can go. And I try to put the wedge in buccally this time whilst really holding it down. And this time it held the matrix band really nice and firmly in place, and then I could get my ring on, which was really nice. So as you can see, I was really happy with the shape of that. Again, just using my ball burnisher to kind of push it up against the wall. Again, same technique as the other side, using a tiny bit of SDR to get contact between the tooth and the matrix band at the base of my cavity, so I don't have a ledge there or a void or anything. Packing a little bit of composite in with my LM Art condenser, making sure it's got a really nice shape there at the bottom. Gonna light cure that in a bit and just keep adding the layers on. So at this point, I was really happy with the wall that I built up distally as well. So again, I'm gonna take off the ring and the matrix band and the wedge, and I'm gonna start building it up occlusally and all the other areas that are missing basically. And so the next layer of composite I'm gonna apply is gonna be Everex Flow, which is a short fiber reinforced flowable composite, and it's for dentine replacement. And compared to other composites, it just tends to have a high fracture resistance. And so for these kind of big molar teeth where I'm replacing a big amalgam, I like to use it as a core material. It flows into the cavity really well. And again, because it's short fiber reinforced, it feels stronger. And for my last few layers, I'm going to use the Genial A-Cord. It's going to be my kind of final top layer of the composite. I don't want to finish off on the Everex because it's really hard to polish. And with this, I'm not really trying to build a lot of cusps or a lot of anatomy, mainly because the amalgam that we started with before didn't have a lot of anatomy, a lot of fissures. So I'm basically just conforming, and I'm giving the patient what they had before, mainly because I don't want to change things up. If I give this tooth a lot of cusps, a lot of anatomy, potentially it might make it a very high risk of fracturing. It's already lost a lot of its cusps, and I don't want to put more pressure on this tooth. So I'm keeping it really flat and making sure that it's kind of a little bit out of occlusion if possible. I'm applying the glycerine here, so light cure through the glycerine to cure the oxygen inhibited layer of the composite as well. With my polishing, I start off with the flame-shaped diamond, goes in between the interproximal areas, gets rid of any kind of flash of composite in those areas, and make sure I don't have any ledges. Go in on all four corners of the tooth and really polish it up. And after this, I like to use a white stone, and the white stone mainly just trying to get rid of that palatal sharp edge of the tooth that can sometimes really bother patients. So making sure that's nice, rounded and smooth. And I'm checking with the floss the contact points, and I was really happy. It flosses really well, and you get that nice satisfying pop sound when you floss it through, which is exactly what you want to hear. Now in a second, I'm going to start taking off my floss tie. I first use the scissors to cut it off from the bit that I had tied to the frame, and then I use my probe to kind of get in underneath the floss tie and just kind of pull it out. And before taking the rubber dam off, I like to use small scissors to cut the bit of the rubber dam in between the teeth. And it just usually helps take the rubber dam off. It doesn't tend to flick off as easily, and it's a little bit of an easier experience for the patient. Cutting off the rubber dam though, however, can be a little bit fiddly, and sometimes you just have to kind of go in there with your probe to pull that little bit out, and just pull it, stretch it to cut it off. So once the rubber dam sheet is off, I'm checking the occlusion. I'm using Troil foil, which is about 8 microns thick, and there was a couple of high spots. So I adjusted this a few times. I've cut out those clips, but this needed quite a bit of adjusting. So I adjusted it as much as I could, and I made sure I got back the same contact points on the adjacent teeth, for example, the occlusal surface of the 5. And that was pretty much it. So a lot more adjusting and kind of polishing went into it, but that was pretty much the whole restoration done. If you guys enjoyed that, please give the video a like, subscribe to our channel if you haven't so already. If there's any other procedures that you want to see, leave a comment down below and we'll do our best to try and record it for you. So thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next video. Take care. Bye.